of Virtual Coffee. My name is Alexa Collier, and on this podcast, I chat with small business owners and early career professionals about their journeys, perspectives, stories, pieces of advice. It's always a really fun conversation. Now, with me today is Crystal Harris, the founder and owner of Mama's Salsa. Crystal and her family sell their homemade salsa and chips that are all made with natural ingredients and no added sugar. You can purchase Mama's Salsa locally here in the Raleigh area, and be sure to check out this awesome business. Now, before we hear from Crystal about Mama's Salsa, I'd really appreciate if you could rate and review Virtual Coffee on the Apple Podcast app. Of course, you can also follow us along on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, etc. All the social medias. It's at Virtual Coffee Podcast. As always, thank you so much for listening and for your support, and happy listening. Now let's hear from Crystal. Welcome, Crystal. Thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Me too. I'm always excited to chat. Let's kick things off. Tell us a bit about your business, Mama Salsa. Tell us about your mission, maybe the origin story of your business, just to get us started here.
So Mama Salsa is a fresh chip and salsa company. We make our salsas fresh every week. It's myself and my husband that does the work together, and then we tote along our 3 boys to different markets and to the kitchen when we're actually like making the salsa. And my mission for the business is just to make people happy with yummy food because it's just the best.
Definitely. I love that. And how did it get started? Did you always have a passion for salsa in particular?
So it's not salsa in particular. Like, I'm Mexican American, so I always grew up with salsa on the table, always chips, like just kind of like it was just our go-to snack. I always grew up loving food and loving to cook, and I wanted to make that my passion going like right outside of high school. But unfortunately, I kind of went on the wrong path and kind of got into like substance abuse and stuff like that. And so my parents were very clear with me that if I wanted to continue that lifestyle, they really weren't going to support me going to school because I was just kind of being crazy.
Sure.
And so I ended up going to a Christian Bible school, and that was really what I needed to just, for me, get back on the right path. And so I kind of put my cooking dreams aside. I was in the school for 4 years. I met my husband there. We started our family and ended up in Raleigh, which is where he's from. And we have 3 boys. And so it was kind of like I kind of put my passion on the back burner for a really long time. And after my 3rd son, I was kind of struggling with like postpartum depression and just anxiety that I had never really dealt with before. And I knew that if I found something that I love to do, that I can kind of like, kind of have an outlet besides just being like a stay-at-home mom, because I was just home with the boys all the time, homeschooling, and it was very overwhelming for me. So I wanted to find something to do that I love, which is food and cooking. And I would go to my friend's house. They had kids that were the same age as my boys, and they would ask me to make authentic Mexican food for them. And they would pay me money, and I would go to the grocery store. I would make like a full out meal, rice and beans and homemade tortillas and chips and salsa. And we would just like go hang out, let our kids play, and like just eat and chill. And it was the best. And I would always send them home with a jar of salsa when we would hang out, like, take some chips, take some salsa. And so I figured if they would be willing to pay me to cook food and give them chips and salsa and stuff, more people would. And yeah, so that's kind of like the idea was there was something going on at my church, like, all the moms that did their little side businesses, they would have like a day and set up their tables and sell their stuff. So I was like, okay, well, my friends paid me for this chips and salsa, like maybe other people would. So I stayed up super late making salsa. It wasn't even a lot. Like, looking back at it, it was 2 cases maybe, and like frying these chips in a little pot and putting them in bags. And I was like, okay, I'm just going to try this out and see what happens. So I went to set up the next day and completely like sold out of everything.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, maybe I have something here. And like I said, after having my kid, like my third boy, it was just, I needed something. And I get to do what I love, which is cooking and feeding people. So I'm going to give it a shot.
That's such an incredible story. Thank you for sharing that. I
Yeah.
always find it so fascinating, like looking back over many years and seeing where your path, may have diverged. And, you mentioned you're kind of headed down a path maybe that wasn't right for you. And then you got back on track and
Yeah.
just seeing the steps that led you to here. I,
Yeah.
I find that so cool to be able to look back and tell
I
that
know.
story. That's
Definitely.
incredible. How would you encourage others to pursue their passions? I just think it's so great that you were able to finally pursue that passion and love of food and making people happy with it. Any advice you have for people who might be in a similar boat that you were maybe a few years ago of, I know I have this passion, but I don't have the time, the money, the energy. Yeah, any thoughts on that?
So I would just say, like, if it's something that you really care about, you can do what you need to do to make it work. It's probably going to be hard and you're going to have to shift things around, but because it's your passion and because it's something that you believe in, like, you just have to go for it. There's no, like, you can't put it off, because even like with salsa business right now, like there's so many ideas that I have and I'm like, okay, I'm just like storing them away. Like this is going to happen one day. But if it's something that you care about, just do it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that is very simple advice, but also very deep advice. Like,
Yeah.
it is so true. It's so fascinating to me to think certain things that I've tried, like launching this podcast. I'm like, yeah, why didn't I just do that 3 years
Yeah.
ago when I had the idea? Like why, like
Yeah.
what was really stopping me? Nothing. I was
You
stopping
stop
me.
yourself. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a great piece of advice and encouraging others to have that mindset.
Yeah.
I'd love for you to describe the salsa you sell. So, if our audience was interested in purchasing some, what kind of flavors or types would they be looking at?
Okay, so typically if somebody comes to the table and they're looking at the different salsas, we have a restaurant style salsa, which is a tomato based salsa with fresh lime juice and fresh cilantro. We have an avocado lime salsa, which is the favorite every single time. We always sell out of
Hmm.
avocado lime salsa first, and that is just a really creamy, cool, fresh salsa. So the restaurant and the avocado are the two mild flavors. And then I have a smoky chipotle, and that is just really deep in roasted onions and garlic flavor. It has a strong smoke flavor, and then it has kind of like a sweet taste from the roasted tomatillos. And then if you're a fan of spice, I always tell everyone my favorite is my spicy tomatillo salsa, and that is just loaded with fresh serrano peppers and lots of lime juice. It's really tangy, and it's the salsa that will like make your nose run, but you want to keep going back and eating it. Yeah,
That
you can't get enough.
Yeah, that all sounds very delicious. Yeah, that avocado one sounds so good. I can even just the name of it, I can tell why it sells
Yeah,
out.
so good.
Are you able to ship your salsa or are you just selling locally in the Raleigh area?
So right now we're just doing local markets.
Okay.
Really want to start shipping, but I feel like, I mean, I know there's just a lot of logistics that go into that, shipping and cost of shipping and making sure it gets there safe and on
Hmm.
time. So
Yep.
I definitely want to, because I know that literally like every week I get multiple people like messaging me from all over the country, like, do you ship? How can I get your salsas? Like, and I don't, and I feel so bad to say no, but I know one day we will. It
Right,
will happen.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. One day at a time, one
Yeah.
milestone at a time, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And where do you make the salsa? Is it just in your kitchen? I know you mentioned your husband and your boys. Is it,
Yeah.
yeah, or do you make it somewhere else?
So we have a kitchen that we rent out in
Okay,
Raleigh, and we share that space with Cup of Joe coffee roasters,
nice.
and not just icing. They're like a food truck that does desserts and stuff like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's a big accomplishment. Congratulations on getting the
Yeah.
kitchen.
Yeah, that was a steal. That was like everything fell in place at the right time when we needed it to, and I'm so thankful for that space.
Yeah, that's excellent. Any
Yeah.
other big milestones or challenges you faced in this whole journey of Mama Salsa? I always find it fascinating just to kind of ask that open-ended question because there's always amazing tidbits and stories that guests have. So just interested in knowing more about the journey.
Yeah, so the journey has been awesome. Like I said in the beginning, when we first started out and we sold out at that first event that I did, after that moment, I would start like taking orders, and every week our order list would grow to more and more people. So at first it was just like friends and family. And then I think my first official market was in downtown Raleigh at Rebus Works. So they were like with us from the beginning. We've been selling salsa there ever since. But I think the challenge, like just challenges that I face, is just trying to figure out how to balance. I don't know that there's ever really a balance. I think it's
Mm-hmm.
just you kind of juggling and hoping that you don't drop anything. But I think probably one of the biggest challenges, obviously, for a lot of us small business owners is obviously when COVID hit. Our family was hit personally. My dad, he actually passed away in March of 2020 from COVID. And like a couple weeks prior to that, we had our calendar full of events. We were so excited for the new year, and just all of the potential that we thought was going to happen. And then, everything shut down. My dad
Mm-hmm.
passed away, and it was just probably the worst time in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm so thankful for this business because my customers and having the drive to keep going and feeling like I had a purpose and feeling like I had something that I love to do really pushed me to continue and to see the joy in life and to see that every day is a new day and a chance for new opportunities and experiences. And so what was probably the worst year ended up being probably one of the best years too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I never really thought about it like that, but our business grew so much. Our customers were so awesome and so supportive. We were able to win a $10,000 grant from the Ball company that
Wow.
makes our mason jars. And yeah, the challenges have been really hard, but
Mm-hmm.
getting through it on the other side, there's still moments of grief, there's still hard times, but to see that, I went through that time and got through it and still going through it, but getting stronger. My vision is growing, my dreams are growing. It was something that happened, but it didn't take me out.
Yeah, I really appreciate your honesty here. And of course, I'm very sorry to hear about your dad. And I think it's important for everyone, whether you own a small business or have more of a corporate job in the business world, just to hear these honest stories from
Yeah.
successful business owners such as yourself to know that, yeah, life gets really tough and it's
Yeah.
not always great. But just still hearing that theme of it seems like Mama Salsa was almost what helped ground you in those really tough times, and
Yeah,
like you kind of always had that
definitely.
to work on, whether you used it as a distraction or just
Yeah.
to take your mind off things, like just having that passion really
Yeah,
through the good
definitely.
and the bad. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm happy to hear about the accomplishments from the
Yeah.
last year and the successes, but yeah, like I said, just really appreciate your transparency. I think it's really
Yeah.
valuable for others. I would love to hear about the other plans you might have for Salsa, kind of the future. And actually, a specific question I have: are you able to take Mama Salsa full time, or do you have another job as well?
So my husband and I do Mama Salsa full time,
Wow,
which I'm so
congratulations.
thankful. Yeah, it's been great just for our family, just to
Mhm.
be able to spend this time together, to bring the boys to every market, and they get to see kind of like our business grow from the ground up. And yeah, we do homeschool during the week, and then like in the middle of the week, we pause on school and we make salsa all night, and then we get right back at it to schoolwork, and then the weekend comes around and we get ready for our market. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's full time for us.
Wow, you guys are superheroes. That's incredible. Congrats on taking that full
Yeah,
time.
yeah, thank
Wow.
you.
What were some of the steps getting full time? I could imagine, I don't have my own business personally, but I could imagine that step being really huge and intimidating, right? Like you kind of know you're approaching that point where you can just have that as your main income, but how did you finally make that decision?
I think the pandemic just made us make that
Mm,
decision.
hmm.
It's just the way that things happened. And my husband found himself at home. And yeah, we were able to just do what we needed to do it safely, especially at the markets because we're outdoors, and still keep our wholesale accounts and grow our wholesale accounts. And honestly, like we're super busy, but we haven't even scratched the surface.
Hmm. That's so exciting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just to have
Yeah,
like
it is.
endless,
Potential.
yeah, exactly. Where I was going before into the future, I know you mentioned some milestones or plans you have, like shipping eventually. Any upcoming milestones or goals that you want to share with our audience that you have for Mama Salsa?
So right now our goal is to be able to build a kitchen on our property.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's like the number one goal. When we do that, it just will create so much freedom with our schedules. Like instead of taking the boys to the kitchen, they can be at home asleep, and maybe we'll just, make salsa in the night and be able to do that way. But in having our own kitchen, that just opens up a door for us to do different products, and I'm just super excited for that. So the kitchen is the number one goal right now. Obviously, adding more wholesale accounts. And then I definitely want to expand the items that we have, which would be like, I do make a really good tomatillo jam. It's spicy and sweet and tangy. So I want to be able to offer that on the regular, and definitely more salsa flavors, and for sure flour tortillas. That will happen. I'm going to say that because it's going to happen. At some point we want to offer fresh flour tortillas, and yeah, different flavored chips, and yeah, there's so much potential.
Yeah, that's amazing. And do you
Yeah.
currently sell your chips with your salsa?
Yes, we do.
Okay,
They're
perfect. That's
addicting.
awesome. Yeah, I can imagine. That's awesome. Where do you currently wholesale? Is it in the Raleigh area?
So we wholesale to Rebus Works in downtown Raleigh,
Okay.
2 locations in Apex, then occasionally at Zen Fish Poke Bar, which they have 2 locations in Durham and 1 location in Morrisville.
Okay. Excellent. Wow. That's
Yeah.
awesome. A lot of
Yeah.
again, congratulations on that. Those
Thank
just a
you.
lot of big milestones you guys hit with owning a business. When did you start Mama Salsa exactly?
So I want to say officially in 2019, the summer
Okay.
of 2019.
Yeah, so pretty recently. That's awesome. Very nice.
So I think I had my youngest was 5 months old.
Okay. Wow. And you had a very young kid. Wow.
Yeah. I was ready to find, like, I just like, get me out of the
Yeah.
house.
Actually, diving into that era, being a mother and a business owner, do you have any advice for other moms who are running their own business or want to pursue their own business? Any advice that comes to mind?
So I think definitely with my boys, it means more to them when I get them involved in what we're doing. Yes, there are moments when they don't want to go to the kitchen to make salsa, and that's just life, and that's normal for them to feel that way. But getting them excited about, milestones that we hit, like when we won the 10,000, we had like a dance party. We get excited when we get like a lot of pre-orders, if we get a new wholesale account, like just including them in the highs and the lows. And yeah, I don't, like I said, balance. I don't know. I don't feel like you could
Mm-hmm.
ever balance anything really. It's just really taking each thing one at a time and including your kids with you and everything that you do. And yeah, make sure you spend some time for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I was just thinking about it earlier, and like initially when I had the idea of starting it, I remember talking to my husband like, maybe, I'll just make enough money to get Starbucks or like get my nails done or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
something that I can just do like on the side to just, treat myself. And then it just
Right.
turned into so much more. But yeah, just make sure you take time for yourself. It's really hard to do when you feel like you have a lot on your plate, but it's very important. So yeah.
Great pieces of advice there. And it sounds like you really made Mama Salsa into a family business, right? So it's
Yes.
not just Crystal's thing, it's a thing
No,
that
it's
everyone in your
all of
family.
us.
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
think that's just a fun activity, and like you said, probably so inspiring for your children as well, right? To see their parents run their own business and all that goes into that. I'm
Yeah,
sure that'll help them in their futures too.
for sure.
And to your point about, yeah, there being no balance, I've been doing a lot of thinking about this. I'm actually working on a project at work about kind of work-life balance, and
Hmm.
someone mentioned to me it's not about balance, it's about the harmony. And I thought that was such
Definitely.
a better word to use, right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes work and the business is going to be 99%. Sometimes your family's the 99%. Sometimes they're 50-50, right? It's like it doesn't
Definitely.
matter, they don't need to be equal, right? Was the
Yeah,
point. It's not about them being equal, it's about finding the harmony that works for you.
for sure. This might be like a weird analogy, but I do take the time to walk every day. So whether it's 30 minutes or an hour, like I have to make sure that I get a walk in because that's just my time to just, be out there, get some exercise in. But right behind our house, there's this huge field that soybeans were just planted in. And so the field was just gross. Like it was full of like old twigs and
Mm-hmm.
just, it was nasty from the crop before. And they came in and they sowed the seeds. And so I've been walking in the field every day and to kind of see like the progress. I don't know. It meant so much to me, this soybean field. But like, it was nasty and it was just kind of like dirty and it looked rough. But then they came and they put the seeds in. And so that's kind of like us with our lives.
Yeah.
We put the good things in our minds and our bodies and our souls. And sometimes it looks gross, but you keep putting the good stuff in because like you do the hard work. You work the extra hours, you spend time with your family, you build your business, and you put all these things in. And maybe sometimes you have a bad day, but after a while, like, you start seeing signs of growth. You see the sprouts, and sometimes in some parts it doesn't grow as much, and maybe that's the part that you need to water. But as long as like you continue to do the work, you'll grow, you'll do it. It doesn't matter the circumstances. The seeds that you plant will grow and
I
will come to fruition. So yeah, I know that's kind of random.
No, I love that. It's almost like we all have our own fields, right? That we need
Yeah,
to take care
definitely.
of. I think that's
Definitely.
great. I love that. Inspiration from soybeans. That's awesome.
But it is
Well,
like it's just an encouragement every time I see it. I'm
yeah.
like, man, we need to grow. We need to put the good things in, and good things will come out. So
Yeah, exactly. And it might take time, right? And that's
yep,
okay. Yeah.
definitely,
Yeah. I
definitely.
think that's great. That'll be the title of this episode. Soybean inspiration.
With Mama Salsa,
Yes.
you're gonna be like, what?
Oh, it's incredible. Crystal, my last big question for all my guests that I end every episode with is, in this moment, what is your proudest accomplishment? And of course, the answer can be Mama Salsa or doesn't have to be related to your business at all. Just kind of that first thing that comes to your mind about your proudest accomplishment.
I think my proudest accomplishment is probably being a wife and being a mother. There's just a point in my life when I didn't think that I would have either of those things. And to just take a minute and, there are hard times, there are hard days. But when I sit back and look, like, I just feel so much gratefulness, thankfulness that I get to have my family and I get to have my boys and I get to have my husband who is the one that I lean on. So yeah, when I think back to like that 18-year-old me that was just crazy out of control, like who was that person to who I am now, like as a mother, as a business owner, as a wife, as somebody that has just a strong foundation, I think, yeah, my family is probably my biggest accomplishment.
Definitely. And
Yeah,
congratulations on all that you've accomplished, both with
thank
your
you.
business and personally. And I'm just looking forward to continuing to follow your journey.
Thank you so much. I
Yeah.
appreciate this.
Of course. Thank you, Crystal. And before we sign off, where can people find you and Mama Salsa on social media? Is your website? Shout everything out.
Yes, so you can find Mama Salsa. I'm majority of the time on Instagram. It's at Mama's Salsa. And on Facebook, if you just search Mama Salsa, you should be able to find me there. And every week I will post where we're going to be. I'm at the beach right now on vacation, so we're
Oh,
nowhere
nice.
this weekend. But you can find our schedule usually on Instagram, different updates. And sometimes, like if I have salsa left over from the weekend, I'll just do pop-ups. So if you ever want to meet, we can do that. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Crystal. And thank you for chatting with me during your vacation. I
Yeah.
really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Of course.